All right, and we're live. Let's go.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Bazinga.
Two in the box.
Ready to go.
We be fast.
They be slow.
Cool.
All right, and we're recording. Welcome to the Mt.Geekmore podcast, your favorite podcast where you come to watch, listen, and hear people talk, debate, and argue over their top four, MtRushmore, if you will, of their top four of their favorite subjects. Today's MtRushmore, today's favorite pop culture subject is, of course, as you can see by looking at your listening device or watching us live on YouTube or Facebook, is the MtRushmore of Disaster Movies. I am Nary Science. With me, as usual, is the Bona.
What up, y'all?
Dave.
Howdy.
And back here is Jeffrey.
What is up? We're excited.
All right.
I love it.
We have to get the gang back together.
I want that intro every time.
Hang on, I see DeBona sporting, repping and Jeff repping.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Old Miami baseball team. There we go.
All right.
The Miami Flamingos there. Minor league baseball. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
So we are super excited today because this was actually Jeff's idea to do the disaster movies. Because him and his dad apparently have an affinity for certain disaster movies, right? That's what it was?
Just all disaster movies.
Yeah, all disaster movies. Everything that Steven Seagal made, all disaster movies. Everything
All the Transformers movies.
Wait, does Transformers count?
According to Google, it does.
Yes. Critical reviews.
Yeah. Sister Act 2 counts. There's a lot of disasters out there.
You don't even believe that. You love Sister Act 2. Don't even.
You know, it's funny. I bought it. I for the listeners that have been around for a while, you've heard my gripe about Sister Act 2 being 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. And when I first found that out a couple of years ago, I was very livid about that. And I kind of wouldn't let it go. And so recently, maybe like 8 months ago, I bought it because I was showing my kids all these old movies and I showed them Sister Act 1 and they loved it. And so I went out and bought Sister Act 2. And I'm not saying that they deserve the Rotten Tomato score of 17%. I'm just saying I'm more understanding now than I was 8 months prior to
I
that.
appreciate you saying that so much because you and Christy would vilify me for telling you that movie was trash compared to the first one.
I hadn't seen it since it came out, and I was a kid when it came out.
But you said it with such certainty.
Yeah, right.
And I was like 13 the last time I watched that movie, 14, maybe let's say 15. Fuck it for the sake of saying, but what the fuck do I know as a 15-year-old? And so I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, I get it. I was just remembering it has solid, good parts. The musical numbers are very good, but it's the things in between.
It's the movie.
Yeah. It's the remaining hour and 15 minutes. That there's issue with.
So I don't think it's 17% worthy, if I'm being completely honest. If you would have told me that movie's 40%, it's still 40% is trash, but it's not a fucking flaming pile of diarrhea that 17% is, right? That's my only gripe now. But I no longer fight on that mountain. I no longer stand on that hill. Get the fuck out of that. All right. So we're going to go. If you're listening to us for the first time, if you're watching us for the first time, by the way, if you're listening to the audio version of this, as most of you do, rather than watch it, just letting you know, you could go back and watch it. Even if you're not watching us live, which we do record live every Monday, but even if you're not watching us live, go back to this episode. Because we post the audio after the video, and you could watch us on either our Facebook page or YouTube page or a Twitch page. Everything is /WooBroPod. So Facebook.com/WooBroPod. WUBROPOD.
Shouldn't it be MtGeekmore?
That's right. I'm sorry. There's so many podcasts in my head right now. I stand corrected. Thank you, DeBona, for backing me for hitting me up. Yes, it is MtGeekmore. I'm sorry, I forgot which podcast I was in. Woo Bros on Wednesdays. Everything. I have 4 days of podcasting today, this week, so I apologize. Let's go around the horn and talk about how we came up with our mountains. Debona, hit me. Where'd you come up with your mountains?
So when you look up disaster films, you get a lot of different things. And so kind of some of the things I put into play, I didn't do, and if anybody else did, it's fine. Not something to argue against. I didn't do alien invasion films. I didn't do like virus, pandemic, like outbreak type films. I looked at really, it came down to natural disasters or just really disastrous situations. One of them is not necessarily a natural disaster on my list, but like I said, I kind of tried just how I eliminated some stuff, and I also tried to look at movies where I tried to look at the whole movie. Like there are a couple that sprung to mind real quickly because they had some dope ass scenes for the disasters, but then the movie itself was hot trash, so I skipped those movies. And I tried to look at it being a good movie centered around a disaster, not just an epic shot of a tidal wave hitting the Statue of Liberty in the titties.
Table.
How do you not like Lady Liberty getting one in the face?
You give me a woman getting sprayed all for it.
Missy says that every JCVD movie is a disaster film. She hasn't seen one. So
Missy woke up and chose violence.
I know. But you know what's funny? She woke up and chose violence, but she didn't put the glass on the wraps. So a reference she will not get because she has not seen that fucking movie. Dave, how did you choose? How did you make your selection?
So unlike Debona, I was very inclusive. So the definition of a disaster movie, according to Wikipedia, is any movie where the central premise of the film is about a disastrous event, whatever that thing may be. And so, it goes through the whole history of disaster movies, starting like from the silent movie era, and then how those movies sort of changed to where we are today.
Dave's number one is just that one scene where like the front of a building falls on Buster Keaton, but he's standing in the window and it misses him.
Oh my God.
Tabled. So I did try to like limit myself to like one per subgenre of disaster movie. So you won't find like 2 aquatic disasters. You won't find 2 alien disasters, or anything like that. So I tried to, play the field, as it were.
Fair.
Whore. Jeff, what do you got? How did you come up with your selection?
Unlike David, I was very exclusive. I did the same thing as Debona. I didn't do any aliens, monsters, or zombies. I feel like those are their own thing outside of the disaster genre. I tried to keep it to natural or accidental events, like that kind of situation. The virus thing's up in the air because my number 4 is still flip-flopping. So it may be a virus movie. It may be another type of movie. But like Neri said, my dad and I, this is one of my guilty pleasures, is all types of disaster movies. I love watching these and seeing people go through worse things than I'm going through, and it makes me feel better, except for one movie. And then I did what you said about one disaster of each type. So if there's a tornado movie, there might not be another tornado movie on it. Or
right.
there's
one volcano-based movie.
Yeah,
one space-based movie.
Maybe there's only one Lavalantula, and another volcano movie won't make it. But that's what I kind of.
Sorry, Tommy Lee Jones. Sorry, James Bond. You don't make it this time.
I went with a very strict definition of disaster movies, where it's always starts with the president. So if a president ignores a scientist, it's a disaster movie.
By the way, real quick, Neri, I noticed something because I've been rewatching a bunch of movies the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, blockbuster movies require that there be a black person with a dog in the movie at some point, like walking the dog or being trapped with the dog. And I noticed it in
there's a lot of because they have to have that minority. No, there was a black guy. There's a black guy.
Did you see him? He was walking the dog. You saw the dog, right?
Yeah, you saw the dog. The dog was there.
Oh, you must have blinked.
Yeah.
That explains it.
Did you turn to somebody and ask them what time it is? Oh, that's part of your fault right there. That's the problem. My only rule for disaster movies, I didn't feel like including zombie or virus movies. I thought that was their own category, which we've kind of already done.
Yeah, we did zombies.
So
did we do virus?
we did
Like outbreak movies?
we did dystopian future ones, and we did and those kind of go hand in hand with virus movies and dystopian future ones.
Yeah, a lot of crossover there.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover there. So I didn't do that. I was all for alien invasions if the alien invasion was the disaster.
Right.
Like
No, it's fair. It was just something I did to just.
Oh
like
no,
I said,
I totally get it. And if you have it, don't say it. But there was a part of me that wanted to put Transformers because Google has Transformers as a disaster movie, and I thought it was kind of unfair because yeah, they're aliens, but that's not what the disaster is. Like that's not what you know what I mean? So there's we'll talk about in the honorable mentions. I have a lot of honorable mentions that I like the movie, but we'll figure it out. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's go. Let's get started with our number 4s.
With the fourth pick.
Number 4. Round 4.
I'm in no mood for your wives, crack. Let's get it on.
All right, Debona, hit me with your number 4, brother.
My number 4 is a movie that I like a lot more than I probably should. It's a movie that is not super highly critically acclaimed, but I absolutely love it. My number 4 is The Core.
You know, I tried to rewatch it because I haven't seen that movie in years, and it wasn't available anywhere. But I was trying to get that movie.
And honestly, like it's been so long since I've seen The Core. It came out in 2003. It's been so long since I've seen it. I wanted to be on there. I have fond memories of it, but I couldn't justify putting it any higher because I haven't seen it since like early 2000s. But this is a movie with Aaron Eckhart, DJ Qualls. I mean, just a bunch of great. Yes, I put DJ Qualls in the same category as Aaron Eckhart. Hilary Swank. It's a bunch of great actors. The core of the Earth stops spinning. They decide to use nuclear weapons to try to get it to spin again. They have to build a drill that makes it all the way to the center of the Earth. The science is anything but sound. And it's the first time I ever heard unobtainium used in a movie, which was an argument I think we had with Mike Mercandal not long ago.
We did.
But in Core, they talk about how the core of the Earth is surrounded by unobtainium. And that ends up being like a big plot point because it can withstand a lot of pressure. It's a movie that's got a couple twists and turns. Like I said, it's really well acted.
Drill.
Yeah. I mean, it's DJ Qualls plays like the best hacker in the world. I mean, this is the guy who's made like 4 movies, and he's only got the one look, so he's got to do what he can with it. Aaron Eckhart does a great job. Hilary Swank is probably the takeaway, like the runaway best actor in this movie. She does a great job. And it's just a lot of fun to watch. And it's something that you don't think about, like, so the Earth's still spinning, but the core stopped, right? And it causes these disasters all over the world. There's lightning storms and electromagnetic fields are screwed up. So electronics and things like that. It's almost like there's EMPs going off around the world because the core of the Earth stopped spinning. It's one of those things that's just absolutely so ridiculous, but it's just tense enough that you keep watching and you kind of just grit your teeth through some of the more ridiculous parts. Like, oh, okay, so before we can even get to the center of the Earth, we got to drop this drill into the Mariana Trench. Okay, yeah, that's a thing, right? So, they have a lot of fun with it. It's ridiculously not self-aware, which is part of the fun of it. Like, it's part of the fun of watching Core is they're just like, yeah, we don't give a fuck, right? Like, no, just listen to what we say. We're a movie. That's how it works. And so it's a movie that when it first came out, we used to watch like a good amount at an apartment that I had with some friends because it's just fun to watch. So my number 4 is The Core.
All right.
Yeah, I can't knock it. That I remember watching that movie, but this was at least 10 years ago. but I remember it being like entertaining. Like
I've never seen it before, and I remember when it came out. But the way you described the science of it all, like it's very Jules Verne-ish.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely
it's like, hey,
yeah.
so it's
that's what I was
science is
thinking.
fantasy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because essentially, it all boils down to we set off a nuclear bomb. That shit'll spin. Trust me.
yeah. That's
Well, it's
how
a
they
series
solve it
of them.
everywhere.
It's a series of them.
Yeah.
They have to time, and it's like that one explodes in this one, so it'll spin.
That's the common theme in all these disaster movies. It's like, hey, we can solve this with nukes.
Hey,
So, like this
we had a
disaster's
president
world
who thought
hunger.
the same. So
Nukes. That's true.
Nukes, am I right?
Eh?
You guys heard about this? You guys seen this? Nukes. Yeah, he did. DJ Qualls has done like 24 movies. I'm not
He was in
including
Supernatural, too.
I'm not including the short films that he's done. And then the last one that I dare to say was a theatrical release was Hustle and Flow.
yeah, so good. He was so fucking good in Hustle and Flow too. Like,
But then everything after that I've never fucking heard of, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah, he was Garth in Supernatural, and his character was amazing.
hey, good. I like DJ Qualls, man. Like I said, he's great in Hustle and Flow, and he's
Road
fun
Trip.
as the hacker in this. Yes, yeah, that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah, it's
Road Trip.
Road Trip, and he was in Big Trouble, which is
the
underrated
new guy.
thing. The new guy, The Core, and Hustle and Flow. Those came out back to back to back, and that was it. That was it.
That was it, and it was done.
They were like,
It's
hey,
similar to like 10 years ago when Hollywood was like, you will like Clark Duke. And we were like, what the fuck? Like, quit putting this guy in movies.
Oh, remember Josh Hartnett? Remember that? Like, you don't fucking like Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, all right, I like him. All right, fine. And then
Right,
they're like,
bro.
nah, man, we're just kidding.
And then Pearl Harbor.
You don't have to like him. That's fine. He'll never make a movie like that.
Oh my god, does Pearl Harbor count as a disaster movie?
I was
Pearl
thinking about it.
It does count as a disaster.
My
movie.
my wife brought that one up. I was like, war movie.
Anything that's not everything that I think anything that Michael Bay is involved with could be classified as a disaster movie.
Oh, Missy just came up with a deadly drinking game during episodes with Jeff.
Take a shot every time Jeff mentions Supernatural. Oh, boy.
I don't think my liver can take it.
Yeesh.
You know what kind of shots they like to drink in Supernatural? It's funny. No, I'm just
Here we go. Here we go again.
All right. Dave, what do you got for your number 4?
Okay, so my my number 4 is my Alien Invasion one, and I put this kind of low because I don't know why. Because really numbers 2 through 4 are kind of interchangeable for me. So this is just kind of like how it happened. But number 4 is Mars Attacks.
Yes, that's what I was hoping you were gonna say.
So when I did a quick Google search of disaster movies, I saw that War of the Worlds was on there, which I love. And I also saw Independence Day was on there. Again, another movie I love. And nowhere was Mars Attacks. But I started thinking, I'm like, well, fuck, if alien invasion movies count, and they should, because like there's like absolute annihilation and destruction going on in these movies, why can't the greatest invasion movie of all time count as well? So Mars Attacks
They make a
is
movie about Mexican Americans coming over.
Apocalypse.
born in East LA.
Sicario.
Sicario, that's a good one.
So I love Mars Attacks. It is one of the most outlandish movies ever made. It reminds me of like an updated Doctor Strangelove, and Jack Nicholson is absolutely phenomenal in his role as the president. Pierce Brosnan chews up every piece of scenery that he can.
So good.
I mean, this cast is stacked, and everyone is just at their absolute zaniest and their best. And it's a movie where you can kick back with a couple of beers and not really care too much about what's going on. There is a whole lot of destruction that happens. There's a lot of death. Like a innocent bystanders die the very first time that these aliens come down to Earth. all of fucking Congress dies. The French president dies. The American president dies. The first lady dies. Like, this is Natalie Portman ends up running the fucking country at the end of this movie. I'm pretty sure it's a prequel to the prequel Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This is how she becomes Queen Amidala.
Fair.
So yeah, I love this movie. It's crazy.
It's like, as soon as you were like, this is my alien disaster pick, I was like, is he gonna say Independence Day or Mars Attacks? I really hope it's Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks, the only reason it didn't make my list is because of the fact that I put the alien invasion on there. It's a movie that I challenge somebody to just not enjoy watching. Even if you don't think it's a great movie, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna have a good time watching it.
It's not a good movie because I don't think it wanted to be a good movie. Like, it wanted to be trashy. It wanted to be nothing more than like sci-fi B movie fare. And if you look at what all the reviewers, like the contemporary reviewers said, it was like, oh, this is something Ed Wood would have been proud of. And they said that with disdain.
Yeah.
Right. And you read that now and it's like, fuck yeah, that is something Ed Wood would have been proud of. Plan 9 from Outer Space, brother. You know, so
Jim Brown was my favorite part of that movie. Just boxing fucking aliens dressed like a Roman gladiator.
Oh my god, it's awesome.
It's a gladiator for
knocking
me.
these guys out.
And there's a happy ending for him.
Yeah.
So that's always nice when you do see. And I think disaster movies need to have that. There needs to be a balance of like there need to be stakes, right? Like, we need to understand that not every,
or what kind of specific
Porterhouse,
all of them,
T-bone guy,
all the stakes. New York Strip. I don't know. I'm just throwing out.
Plus, it's a Tim Burton movie without Helena Bonham Carter, so
yeah,
we'll chalk that up to a victory.
I think it was before the Helena Bonham Carter phase of his life. Might be. So there you go.
You mean his marriage?
The phase.
I've never seen it, so there you go. All right, Mars Attacks. Jeff, what do you got for your number 4?
Okay. Because I still have the virus one there, but I you know what, I'm gonna go with it because there's a reason for it. My number 4, and I see that like Andrew put on their Outbreak. I think this movie blows Outbreak out of the water. And it's Contagion from 2011. Yes. I rewatched this movie today, and I'm putting it on my mountain primarily because whoever created it needs to work for the government, because they basically guessed the entirety of the coronavirus. Like, basically, the only difference is that people actually want to get vaccines in this one. They're actually caring about it. But what I loved about this movie is you don't see how the actual virus started till the end of the movie. So the whole movie is them trying to figure out what you see all these aspects of these government officials trying to like figure out where's this origin, who's patient 0, how far has it gone. You get this inside look into how this works. The cast is, you talk about like Mars Attacks, the cast for Contagion's like ridiculous. Yeah, everybody that's in that movie, and it's not a pick me up by any means, but you do have those moments of light that you do see, that people can be good, but you also see the dark side of how people can be. And it was between this and another movie, but the other movie kind of ties into my number 3, so I'm not gonna do it. But I just thought that the movies, I think it's 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Because you're watching this movie and it's not meant to be. When I say entertaining, I mean in the sense of it's about
on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's about
70 on Metacritic. Wow.
And the only reason, and I will say why I think it's better than Outbreak, is that I rewatched Outbreak today also, and Outbreak's more of a Michael Bay version of a virus movie than Contagion, which there was no Nick Cage doing this with but like and when I say that because Michael Bay, I love Michael Bay, but there you go. But with Outbreak, like I said, it's that very it's more actiony than Contagion. Contagion actually gives you a more realistic look at what happens everywhere to different people when a virus like this happens. You've got the conspiracy theorists in Jude Law. You've got Lawrence Fishburne, who's like one of the heads of the CDC. Like you see, you got Matt Damon as a dad who's immune to the virus. And another plus, Gwyneth Paltrow gets killed in like the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Oh man,
so it's like she still shows up in like montages, but they don't let her talk too much. But
good.
But but she.
Missy says that they consulted government officials in Contagion, so it was all a prophecy.
There you go. But that's what I loved about it. It was more the science of everything, and you see that process.
And based on where we are now, like you go back and you watch Contagion. I went back and watched one thing I did during like lockdown was I was like, I'm gonna go watch Outbreak, and I watched Outbreak. Then I was like, and I was trying to remember what the better one was. I was like, oh yeah, it's Contagion. And as things keep progressing, Contagion cuts really close to the knuckles. Really close to the knuckles.
So deep. Like it's like, even I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but it's like very much like what's going on right now. But I did allow certain type of virus because this is a realistic thing that's going on. You know, the zombies haven't come yet, but which who knows? But that's why I picked number 4 is Contagion.
There's still time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're gonna keep it on rolling, baby.
Nere's is Sister Act
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. I just keep it coming, keep it consistent, man. I try to keep it consistent. All right. What my number 4 is I'm gonna go with my number 4 is gonna be War of the Worlds.
Nice.
I was not the hugest fan of this movie when it first came out. Because it was
you are referring to the Spielberg one, right? From 2005 or so.
Yeah.
Cruise, right?
Yeah,
the Tom Cruise one. Yeah, I wasn't the hugest fan of this movie when it first came out because it was very different than the book. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
When you were like, you're talking about the Spielberg one, I thought he was going to be like, no, I'm talking about the radio broadcast.
Yeah.
Get your shit together.
Get your shit. So here's the thing. I was familiar with the radio broadcast version of it because we started it in our English class in high school. So I was like familiar with it. I knew about the gist of it. People thought it was fucking real. It's a whole thing, whatever. So I watched the movie and I was like, I didn't know how to feel about it because I was like, all right, I guess good, not good. Like I didn't really remember how to feel about it. And then I realized a couple of years ago that I was very close to owning every Tom Cruise movie. And the collector gene in me was like, well, if I'm this close to, like, I just happened to already own most of them. And then the collector gene in me was like, well, now you got to just fucking buy all of them now.
Did you get the video of him screaming at the people on the set of the movie for not social distancing?
Yeah, that and the
on Blu-ray.
Those are my top 2. But I was that's actually one rant that I was okay with. I was like, yeah, that's a good rant. Go ahead, do that shit, man. So I rewatched War of the Worlds maybe back like in February, March of this year, and I was like, oh, this is really, really fucking good. It's very different than your typical Tom Cruise movie in the sense that my friends and I have talked about this for years. Every movie that Tom Cruise is in, he's the best at whatever the fuck he's doing. Like even in Cocktail, which is not a good movie, he's the best bartender. Like he's the best everything. He's the best fighter pilot. He's the best spy. He's never plays the down and out. He never plays the guy that's down on his luck. Like even when bad shit's happening to him, he's still the best at a particular set of skills. Whatever that is in that particular movie.
It's the best white guy with the samurai sword.
Like every movie that he's in he's the best in. And then I saw War of the Worlds. Like that's been the running joke with me and my friends for a long time. Like he's always plays the best. Where Tom Hanks, for example, in complete contrast, plays the everyman. Like he's just the everyman that gets put in crazy situations. And Tom Cruise was not the best in this movie. He wasn't the best at anything. He wasn't even a good father. Like he wasn't, it wasn't. So I really enjoyed this movie. I watched it, like I said, back in February or March of this year, and I rewatched it back in February or March, I was a fan. I was like, no, this is really good. It's really very suspenseful. It's different than other Tom Cruise movies. So I'm good with it.
What Missy wrote.
I haven't seen one Missy wrote. Is she right?
She wrote something for Contagion and one for this.
Tom Cruise has to be the best because
Xenu.
Yeah. So that's my number 4 is War of the Worlds. So
I love that they still have the set at Universal Studios Hollywood, that you can still go through the set of the plane crash. Like they kept it there. The plane crash, that plane crash in War of the Worlds.
Oh, okay.
Like they kept the actual because it was a full size jet that they actually like ripped apart to make the scene, and they kept it in the Universal backlot in Hollywood. And like during Horror Nights, when they do the Terror Tram, they turn that into part of it, where they have like zombies or creatures or whatever the theme is for that year come out at you.
Nice.
You know what's very cool about that movie is that we, the audience, don't know anything before Tom Cruise learns it.
Yeah,
Like,
true enough. We're not.
Everything we learn, everything we know as an audience, we get it from following Tom Cruise around. And when he learns it, we learn it. So there's no like cut to the Pentagon where they're like, this is what's like, we don't know any of that shit. So we're learning everything as it goes. And I think that was the first movie that I noticed that in. And ever since then, whenever there's kind of these big movies, I always look for like, how are we, the audience, learning information? And I feel for suspense and thriller, I feel that that's the best way to go about it. Like, don't tell nobody shit until the protagonist knows about it. That's when you learn about it. All right. So number 4s are The Core, Mars Attacks, Contagion, and War of the Worlds. All right. Nice. That's a pretty decent.
It's gonna be a spicy evening.
Yeah.
It's a spicy meatball.
Round 3.
3 is a magic number. Yes, it is.
All right. So what do we got for number 3? Is the Bono? What do you got, man?
My number 3 is the like classic older pick on my list. It is from the 70s when there was a rash of disaster films. It is my favorite of them, and it is The Poseidon Adventure.
Tabled.
Fair enough.
My dad's watching. He just commented. My dad just made a comment.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
I saw him jump on the couch.
Poseidon Adventure. Now, if I pick Poseidon, not Poseidon Adventure, it's a different film.
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, good.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to pick the lesser of
I
the
picked a
two
good one,
movies.
yeah. Peter, Jeff's dad put the reason Tom Cruise was successful in War of the Worlds is because he is as much an alien as the visitors.
Did you forget my last name there for a second?
He did.
He goes,
He
Peter,
was like Peter,
Jeff's
dad.
No, I was playing it off as if I didn't know who it was for the listener's sake. Like I was doing that whole radio bit where I was like, "Oh, we have a caller," and like I know who the fuck you are. Then I was like, "No, he just said it, man. Jeff just said it."
Yeah, I was like, just said my dad commented.
All right. But no, I know your name, right? It's
I'm still
Machiavelli?
not sure. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm still not sure you know what Jeff's last name is.
Melatonin.
What was the fuck? It would have been a good joke if I remembered the name of the thing that the prequels had for midichlorians.
The
midichlorians.
Midichlorians, yeah. That would have been a good joke had I remembered it on time. Damn it, timing is important, man. You said Poseidon Adventure. Dave, what do you got?
My number 3.
He's not going to talk about it?
It's tabled.
I tabled it.
Oh, you tabled it. Oh,
yeah.
It's a movie from the 70s, Jeff.
Oh, you're right. You're right. But it's in color, so it's like a wild card.
I actually have no black and white moving pictures in this now.
Did they make disaster films in black and white?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they did.
The Deluge.
Song of the South.
That's in color.
Not Song of the South. What was the other one?
I don't know.
Birth of a Nation. There we go. Sorry.
Birth of a Nation is in black and white.
Yeah. And a silent one at that too. Nice. Pulling
out
a wild card there. My number 3 is Twister.
Table.
All right.
All right. Jeff, what do you got for your number?
All right. So my number 3, if my dad's still watching, he'll appreciate this pick. This is this covers tsunami, earthquake, blizzard, and it's the day after tomorrow.
Nice, nice. That's a good one.
So that's why I didn't put one of my honorable mentions, because it's a tsunami movie, because a tsunami's in this. I know Debona.
Peter
You see,
M.
there's my dad.
Yes.
If my dad and I are around, that either Twister or that movie's on. So it's like, and I rewatched it again today, and it's because I knew it was probably going to be between this or 2012,
which was the other one that I was like, the scenes are great. I just don't like the movie.
Right. Like the thing is, the day after tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's scary because it's another thing that could potentially possibly happen, because it was and it's the first movie I think where the cause of the disaster was the desalinization of the ocean because of all the glaciers melting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so but it was all about the global
science words.
You're right. Like, I was like, okay, this is the first time I've heard this. It wasn't just a monkey. So, and I just love it because it has that good balance of like what, again, I'm going to go back to it a lot, what Dave was saying, of a lot of these disaster movies need to give you hope, that you need to have it's good when there's some kind of a positive in all the negative that's going on, and you still get a lot of those deaths of main characters in this, but you also see growth in people, like his Dennis Quaid's son, that's played by Jake Gyllenhaal, becomes, he was this kind of quiet kid who becomes this leader to save all these people. It's the action scenes I thought were really cool. The ideas of one of the jokes that I love, it's not a joke, but it's funny to me, is the fact that Mexico closes its borders to the US and won't let the US in.
That's a great scene where like people are walking.
They're breaking through the fence, and they're illegally walking into the Rio Grande, like, and you see just all these Americans, and it's and then but I think it has really cool visuals. And I remember there's one shot of like all the helicopters, and you see all the survivors like on the roof, and like all these, there's some great imagery in it. And like I said, it's another one of these movies where most of my movies, except for one of my picks, are, which you already know, which is tabled, actually could happen, or there's at least a realistic explanation of it. I guess technically all 4 of them, but that's why I picked Day After Tomorrow. It's got a special place in my heart because of my dad, and also I thoroughly enjoy the movie. Like, I just rewatched it now again, and I enjoy watching it.
I remember being so hyped to go see this in the theaters, and like we were standing around at our cars like bullshitting afterwards, and a friend, like, I was just like, well, and a friend of mine just goes, well, I got to get out of here before the wolves show up. And I was like, oh, goddamn.
I love that they were the only animals that escaped. Yeah, there was bears and shit, but they were the
wolves.
Yeah.
The only thing with Day After Tomorrow is it got so ham-fisted sometimes, like when they're in the library and they're like, we can't burn the books. It's like, bitch, you will die. Burn the books. Let's have this argument if we're deciding whether or not to throw little Timmy on the fire so we can survive. I get it, the books, but come on, we're dying here. Like, just certain little things like that about Day After Tomorrow. You're right. The action scenes are untouchable. They do some great stuff with the special effects in that movie. But just, man, sometimes the movie itself, like we were talking about Sister Act, like once you're between the singing, it's like when there's not a title, like a tsunami hitting something, I'm like,
and it's got the stereotypical dumb people that like, you're like, why aren't you going the opposite direction of the water that's coming? Why are you sitting in a bus right now instead
need a Patrick Swayze surfing past the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so my number 3 is The Day After Tomorrow.
I like it, man.
All right. I haven't seen it in a very long time. I haven't seen it since it came out. I'm assuming 2011 is when it came out.
It had a solid run as like a
2004.
It had a solid run as like a TBS Saturday film for a couple of years there.
Well, Jeff and his dad kept requesting it, and
they're like, these guys are eating it up. Let's just keep putting it on.
They have a box. Yeah, all right. My number 4. So let me put the Day After Tomorrow. My number 4. I'm making an audible only because. I'm sorry. My number 4. My number 2. Three.
Three.
Sorry. My number three, I'm making an audible because it's already been brought up 15 fucking times. The one that I had for my number three. So I was like, all right, I guess we're gonna fucking move this one. So my number three is a movie that, for whatever reason, a lot of people didn't like. Some people did, some people didn't. But my number three is Noah.
I was gonna say that as a joke.
Yeah.
And by some people liked it. Who?
Russell Crowe. No,
Russell, yeah.
Miriam Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe's mom.
The fan club.
Me, there's a group of I have a group of friends of mine that really enjoy that movie a lot. What throws people off about that movie is like the rock monsters, and that they purposely made to look cheesy. Like they purposely, I was watching the behind the scenes. Like, no, we wanted it to like we didn't want it to look extra like we wanted to look like almost like claymation type of deal. But I enjoyed that fucking movie a lot, to be honest with you. The acting is superb.
Is Russell Crowe a Spaniard, or is he?
Well, he's the first.
No, he's no, yeah.
So he's Israeli.
So he's clearly he's clearly Argentinian.
He's Israeli via New Zealand.
So he I enjoyed this movie a lot. It wasn't gonna make my list. It was gonna make my honorable mentions. And but the movie that I have for my number three got mentioned by everybody 14 times already, and I'm like, all right, I'll just.
What was the one that was supposed to be number three?
It was gonna be Independence Day, but then I was like, I'm not really married to that movie anyway. I was like, it was all right, it was fine, like it's no big deal.
Talking about Resurgence it was fine, like because the original one's amazing.
I haven't even seen Resurgence.
Good,
to be honest with you.
Don't.
No, I don't. That's what everybody tells me. Everybody's like, don't. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'm like, I never had an interest in research. The moment they said Will Smith is not going to be in it, I'm like, then why the fuck are we here? This is useless.
Yeah, see, it's interesting to hear what you're saying about Noah, though, and that it was purposeful that the monsters were very Jason and the Argonauty.
Yeah.
Because I like that was what I thought when I watched it, and I was like, "What year is it? And why do they look like this?" To find it was on purpose, it makes it a little more fun to me. This is a movie that I've never actually seen all the way through because I just wasn't committed enough to keep watching it, like when it was on. And so now knowing that, I'm a little more interested.
I thought it was great. To be honest with you, I enjoyed. That never threw me off. I saw it in theaters, and I remember I never got thrown off at the fact that the rock monsters look the way they do. I was fine. I was like okay with it. But they have like, if you watch the behind the scenes I'm making of, they have a like in-depth reasoning. Like they talk about it in the making of. And I don't know. I'm not super skeptical to think that they put this in the behind the scenes just so that in the making of documentary, just so that they could earn points with the audience or whatever, because the movie already had come out, already had made money. But the people who I find don't like the movie are one of two groups, either super religious people or very non-religious people. So like if you don't if you're like fuck religion is stupid, Noah's Ark is bullshit, you can't put two of each animal on one ship, then you're not gonna like this movie. Like it's just realistic. And then the people who are super religious, and I have friends and family who are like in that camp, and they're like, well, that's not the way it happened. And I'm like, it actually happened. So,
brother, do I have a story for you?
Yeah. So then that's my whole thing. It's like, boy. So those are the two groups of people that I found that don't like the movie. Is like super religious people or people who are very not religious,
who just don't want to see anything religiously tied made.
Yeah, that they're just like, oh, it's like, you know what I mean? Like the moment they know that it's tied to religion, in their mind is like, well, this is bullshit. I'm like, yeah, it's a fucking Hollywood movie. I mean, just go like I you know what I mean? So there's that. But I enjoyed this movie. Russell Crowe's acting is phenomenal. The whole cast is phenomenal. Jennifer Connelly,
Jennifer Connelly is spectacular.
Was the Ark a tugboat?
The chick from Harry Potter was even a good actress.
Emma Watson's. I mean, she's always good.
Okay, so Missy brings up Evan Almighty, which honestly, when you first said Noah, that was the movie that popped into my head, and I was like, "What the fuck? What disaster? Just the movie itself? Are we riding that train?"
Disaster. The movie itself is a disaster. No, whatchamacallit? Evan Almighty. It's so funny because people were like, "Oh, I don't know why the first one worked with Jim Carrey, but not Evan Almighty," and I was like, Well, you could hide the fact that you're God because you don't look like, you know what I mean? Like they put fucking Steve Carell on a big ass fucking beard and robe.
Yeah, they did
And
like the Santa Claus. It's
Yeah, and it's like, and then he shaved and it grew right back magically in front of everybody's eyes. I'm like, at that point, people are gonna be like, well, maybe we should fucking pay attention to this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's on the Senate floor shaving his face and it comes right back. Like that. Suspension of disbelief, I guess. But I enjoyed Noah a lot. It's in a family show. If anybody ever wanted to see it again, I doubt they would. But
I don't think I actually ever watched it. I know the movie, but I don't think I ever actually saw it.
you know the story that you've been told as a kid.
Yeah.
You know the story that you've been told as a kid with the little pop-up books, the little, and you pull here and then look at all the animals.
And that the unicorns were left on an island because they forgot.
He gave the fairies and the Loch Ness monsters the wrong time.
There were the thunder.
No. Just get there at 11. Get there. We're leaving 11-ish. 11-ish.
We're New Zealand time.
It's 11-ish. It's fine. That's how I know unicorns are from Latino countries because we got there late. So all right. So then the number 3s were Poseidon Adventure, Twister, Day After Tomorrow, and Noah. And we're moving on to the number 2s.
Round 2.
Dose, the sequel to Uno.
All right, DeBona.
My number 2 is the newest movie on my list, and a movie that I rewatched this weekend because I saw it in theaters. I was very excited for it to come out in 2019, and I was trying to remember if it was as good as I remembered it or if it was just that I really liked seeing it in theaters. It holds up. I still really enjoyed it. Made it all the way up to number 2. My number 2 is Crawl from 2019.
That's an honorable mention for me.
Dude, I own the movie. It's in
I
the
never
family
ended up
share.
seeing it.
Never fucking seen it, but I own it. It's in my family share, and I have never seen it, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
It's a cool movie, man.
Crawl is so cool, and it's this great. It's a love letter to the disaster film, and
Sam
to
Raimi.
and it's a Sam Raimi movie, and it crosses the lines. It's very slightly into monster film in the fact that the alligators are very big. But this is a film about a girl who goes home to Florida. A hurricane hits. She gets stuck in like her podunk ass town trying to find her dad. Everything floods because this giant hurricane comes through. And because it's Florida, there's fucking alligators there too.
Question.
Yes.
From the trailer and preview, and I don't know anything about this movie, and I'm not asking you to spoil anything, but it seems that she gets locked in a basement with
Yes.
Yes.
I was about to say that to you before you said that.
in Florida.
A Florida basement.
Yeah,
a Florida basement.
Florida
All
basement. Florida
I
basement.
believe the alligators are chasing her more than I do that there's a basement in Florida.
I believe
This must be in the same
Noah
part of.
actually happened. I believe Noah's Ark actually
Yes,
happened more
yes,
so
100%.
than the basement of Florida.
Yes, there
So
is.
her town must be in the same place where the Day of the Dead cavern
Yes.
is.
Oh, the giant.
Yeah.
But this is a movie that it's not even 90 minutes long. Like this movie is like an hour and 20 minutes long. So it's relentlessly fast paced. There's always something happening. There's no downtime. There's no sitting around in a living room while somebody explains why the alligators are so big or why they're so aggressive. They're like, fuck it. They're alligators.
It's Florida.
There's water everywhere. They eat shit. That's what they do.
You know what the funny thing is? People who are not from Florida saw that movie and they go, "Yeah, no, that's how big gators are." Like there was nothing. Like, yeah, no, that's fucking Florida, bro. Florida's full of gators. Everybody has gators in their backyard. It's like, you're not wrong.
It was her pet.
Yeah,
It was her
it's
dad's
just
pet.
it's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
And it's so tense and there's no breathing room. There's always something happening. And you get into those even when there is nothing happening, you're so on the edge of your seat waiting for the next thing to happen that it's relentless. Nom nom.
No. Yeah, and I think if I remembered, DeBona, was there a part like that somebody gets bit by the alligator and their leg doesn't separate from its body because like that it was this giant gator like bites the person, they're like ha ha ha,
yeah,
you.
and like they shrug it off, like, I mean, but it's like then they try to like be realistic with it. They're like, oh no, alligator's death roll, that's when they get you, and like they throw that little bit in there, like, oh no, here's your education about alligators, they don't kill you with the bite, they death roll. thanks. Okay. And they're really that big? Sure, whatever. It's just it's tense, it's fun, it knows what it is. I like earlier I said that the core is blissfully unaware. Crawl is just self-aware enough to keep the movie. And I think that's Sam Raimi. I think that this, when Sam Raimi set out to make this movie, that's what he was after. This is a movie where the characters are aware of what happens when you get stuck in a natural disaster, and they live in a world where they've seen these things. This isn't something new that they never thought could happen. Like, you always get the feel that the characters in Crawl always lived with the assumption that maybe one day a hurricane was going to come and they were going to have to fight giant alligators, because they're scared, but also they're not surprised.
Right.
So it's this very interesting thing. I highly recommend it to
I've been wanting to watch it, man.
It's just fun, man. And like I said, it takes up just over an hour of your day. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I really thought it was going to be lower on my list when I thought of it and went to rewatch it, and made it all the way up to here. So my number 2 is Crawl.
Yeah, that's
2019.
That's an honorable mention for me.
I just picture somebody like the moment where you just described Debona as somebody like, there's a hurricane and now we got to fight gators, and then somebody like just cracking their neck and be like, all right, all right. This is like,
you hear a Louisiana accent.
That's what I kept.
We're gonna come down to the gator.
I remember when I first saw a trailer for this movie, I was like, oh, cool, Louisiana, and they're like Florida, and I was like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
also works.
Florida man.
Fine. All right, Crawl, man, right on. Dave, what do you got, man? Hit me.
So Debona and I can now talk about the Poseidon Adventure.
Hell yeah.
So this is the one that I saw again today, because I hadn't seen this in years. This is one that I used to watch with my grandfather a lot, and I think it holds up incredibly well. It was kind of the progenitor of the billion-dollar cast, a blockbuster disaster movie. From there came Earthquake, The Towering Inferno, all these
Airport.
things kind of Airport,
Airplane.
all these things kind of followed after it, and so I think what this movie does incredibly well, which I think a good disaster movie needs, is it needs to have characters that you care about. Because if there's a disaster going on and I can't find a reason to care about the people that are in the disaster, then all I'm watching is a special effects reel. And as good as the special effects are in this movie, with the explosions and the water and the ship and all that stuff, it would be meaningless if not for the dynamic of Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine and
Carol Lindley, smoke show Carol Lindley and Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, and an older oh my God, she was hot when she was younger, but the older woman that dies of the heart attack.
Wait, was it Shelley Winters? Shelley Winters.
Yeah,
it was Shelley Winters.
Yeah, Junior.
Say that again.
No, I was talking to Debona when he was stumbling.
Today, Junior.
Today, Junior.
Red Buttons. That's the other guy I was thinking of. He's fantastic in the movie. So it's one of those movies that I think is you often hear it brought up when people talk about disaster movies or 70s movies, even as a whole, right? As a decade. And if you've never seen it, it's really hard to underestimate how important the movie is to Hollywood, to blockbusters, to the disaster movie, to the action movie genre. It's fantastic, and you've got an amazing score by not Robin Williams, John Williams, thrown in there, and
John's little brother.
Yeah, John's little brother.
Yeah,
I love it.
This movie, like I said, there was a run in the 70s. Like this in the 70s was was like, kind of like the birth of the modern disaster flick.
Yeah.
And there's a couple others that people will go back and reference, but this is the one that always gets me. And the thing that gets me about the Poseidon Adventure are the times when you're watching people slowly come to grips with the fact that they're about to drown or about to die, and you find yourself gasping for breath. The way this movie's shot, the way the scenes are, like you are right there in the water. Like you'll feel yourself kind of sit up, like you've got to get up higher to get air as you watch the Poseidon Adventure. And it was, I saw this movie for the first time when I was a kid. Again, like I said, like a TBS Saturday type thing. And I came in at the halfway point, and my mom was so adamant that I not watch it from there because I needed to see the whole thing. We went out to Blockbuster and rented it that day. And it's stuck with me ever since because it's just so well done. And David's absolutely right. It's you care about the characters, and there are people you want to survive, and a couple people you're like, man, maybe I don't care, but like you're invested in them making it out of this alive. And it's something that it's, again, so the realm of the disaster film goes so far from being the core of the earth stops spinning, that's ridiculous, to a ship flipped over and now you've just got to survive and the whole thing's upside down. And it's so easy to put yourself in that situation if you've ever been out on the open water, that that little bit of it is just relatable enough that you find yourself captivated by it. This is one of the times when I knew there was going to be an older movie on my list, and this was going to be it.
Yeah. You mentioned something that I think is like it struck me today. Seeing it probably as an adult for the first time. I haven't seen it since I was a kid or a teenager. And it's the way that people, like you were saying, accept their situation or accept the death of others. And particularly Nani, the singer. Like her brother dies in the initial, capsizing of the boat. And Red Button's character, is able to kind of like take her and like push her along and get her into survival mode. And it isn't until they're sitting down in like a salon way later in the movie, like maybe another half an hour or 45 minutes into the movie, that she finally says the words, "My brother's dead. I can't go on." And like you see that realization hit her. She's been, catatonic up until that point. You see the same thing with Charlie's from the Chocolate Factory with his grandfather.
Did he stand up suddenly really quickly to go on the cruise? Fucking prick.
Yeah, he's like, I've got the golden ticket. I can get out of this fucking hellhole. He was there. He's like, I'm not gonna move from here. And Gene Hackman gives him. Gene Hackman just fucking is awesome in this whole movie.
Yes,
and he gives him that really powerful speech of you have to live. You belong in the world of the living. Really good. Really good.
Yeah, fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I like in the remake that Richard Dreyfuss is in the thing after, and he's like meeting with the people that are basically the protagonists of the film, and he goes, "I'm an architect. These ships aren't meant to be flipped over like this." And I was like, "Oh, really? Is that?" Thank God there's an architect in the group. Thank God there's an architect in the group. Because
I didn't know we were supposed to build those newfangled ships that float both ways.
Yeah, we wouldn't have known that the chandelier isn't supposed to be at our feet. Oh, I fucking get it now. Thanks, architect. Fucking Ted Mosby. All right. So, Jeff, what do you got for your number 2?
Mine, I think, is getting tabled. It's my number 2 is Twister.
Table, yeah.
All right.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you? I heard that.
My number 2 is probably the best film of my list so far. By the looks of the rest of the groups, it might be the best film of the whole episode. Wow. But it's
how
like
dare you?
It's real. It's first of all,
Noah 2.
Such a electric boogaloo. So it's like phenomenal acting. The script is great. The writing is great, and it actually happened based on an actual true story that we all fucking know about. Not some true story that was dug up by in the 1700s, and there was actual true story, is Deepwater Horizon. That movie
Mark, right?
Mark Wahlberg is that. But here's the thing: so it got put as a Mark Wahlberg movie, and Mark Wahlberg is in the movie a great deal, and he's a big portion of it. That movie is a Kurt Russell film. I'm sorry, but Kurt Russell plays a higher ranking character than Mark Wahlberg, and does equal screen time. So to me, it was really weird how Mark Wahlberg was put on the cover and shit. Because I was like, at least put both of them.
Got to go with the juice, man.
Yeah, but this guy just had juice. Like he had just made like the Fast and the Furious. Like he had just been in a bunch of shit that you're like, oh, there's like a resurgence of Kurt Russell. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like there was a resurgence of Kurt Russell, and then they were like, oh, this is a Mark Wahlberg movie. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not a Mark Wahlberg movie. I'm just saying that it is
also a Kurt Russell movie.
It is at very least equally a Kurt Russell film.
Why is all this oil leaking? Say hi to your mother for me.
Yeah. The best oil in the world. It comes from Boston.
Why you looking at me, fish? I didn't put the oil there.
But the movie is really fucking good. I was surprised at how good this movie was. I saw it with kind of, I don't want to say begrudgingly, but I kind of saw it like, fuck it, why not? Like, what kind of attitude? I was like, I'll watch this. I own it, and I was like, I'll watch it, and I was really taken. I'm like, fuck, I wish I would have seen this in theaters. Like, I regret not seeing it in theaters because of the huge moments, but also of what everybody has been talking about, the characters that we care about, people that we care about, and then afterwards, like any kind of movie based in reality, they show you pictures of the real people in real life that happen, and there's real life heroes in the situation, and there's real life fucking bad guys. Spoiler alert, it's BP.
They didn't even wait for the body to get cold on that one, though, right? They were like, we pretty much done cleaning that up. Let's make a movie.
It never got cold. It was the fuel was always burning.
There was a constant fire.
There was a constant fire in the Gulf of Mexico. So they were like, no, it's never gonna get cold. But it's phenomenal. I thought it was really fucking good. It made me care about the people. I went in there. I also think, knowing that it was from the BP thing, I went in there waiting to hate everybody. Like, oh, all these selfish motherfuckers, all these fucking oil drillers and all that shit. And then you start liking, you start like, oh, it's not this person's fault. It's political. Who knew? But I was very impressed with this film. I'd rather it's my number 2, and I'm telling you, it's the best film on my mount.
See, it's one that I always avoided because I've never talked to anybody who saw it, and now hearing you talk about it, I want to watch it. I was too afraid that they were going to be like, BP aren't really bad guys. Let us tell you about something that happened that was beyond anyone's control.
Oh, no.
And so hearing that they played it out that way, that was why I avoided it, honestly, for as long as I did.
No. So they just, it's like, hey, there's science that tells us that, like, that's bullshit. It must be wrong, and the meter must be wrong. It's like, what the fuck? It's fine. Just push it. We got a fucking deadline. Like, you hear that shit a lot in the beginning of the movie. We got a deadline. We got to push this deadline, and you're like, this does not make for a good recipe. And again, that part could be Hollywood. Who fucking knows how it really went? But it was really well done. I was very impressed with this fucking movie, all the way across the board. All right. So the number 2s, the deuces, were, hold on, let me copy mine. I didn't even put mine in here. The number 2s were Crawl, Poseidon Adventure, Twister, and Deepwater Horizon. All right, those are number 2s. Honorable mentions. They're not good enough for the mountain, but they're still pretty good. Honorable mentions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
So got a little higher on that one than the rest of the fucking picks, but you get what I'm saying. What do you got for honorable mentions, DeBona?
Another 70s one, Towering Inferno. It's a great movie. It's 3 hours long, and it's just too long.
Oh, fuck that.
I
don't need to feel like I'm in an inferno, like watching a movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's just too long. But I mean, it's a good movie. It's just too long. Armageddon, right? It's fun to watch. It's not a great movie. That we all know the Aerosmith song. It's a lot of fun.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. And Geely.
Anything with J-Lo. Andrew puts honorable mentions The Impossible, Unstoppable.
That's one of my honorable mentions.
Unstoppable's great.
Unstoppable is one of my honorable mentions as well. Alive, The Perfect Storm, and
Perfect Storm.
The Room.
The Room. There we go.
I never saw Perfect Storm.
Oh, dude, Perfect Storm is great.
Just make sure you're on your antidepressants when you watch it.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's
It ain't
rough.
happy.
It's rough.
It's a good
Note
movie.
to self-
Like the water in the
note
storm.
to self, get antidepressants. Dave, what do you got for your honorable mentions?
I also had the Towering Inferno. But in addition to that, I've got Dante's Peak. I mentioned it earlier, but I actually do really like that movie. You've got James Bond.
It's the superior of the two that came out that year.
It is, yeah. You've got James Bond and Sarah Connor in the
And
same movie.
it has one of the most heart-wrenching, because that's an honorable mention for me too, is it's got one of the most heart-wrenching scenes when the grandmother like gets in the acid-filled lake to push the boat so that they all survive.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
But Volcano does have that scene where the guy's jumping from the from the subway car and he's walking in the lava with oh man, they're good. They're both good. But Dante's Peak, just hedges it out a little bit. Deep Impact, which I think is the better of the two Meteor Room
that
movies.
Piece of shit movie. That's the one I've been talking about.
Fucking balls.
The worst president who didn't give a fuck about anybody. Everybody dies in the movie.
Oh my God.
Elijah Wood's the only one that survives with his child bride.
Yeah, Elijah Wood's parents deserve the fucking Parents of the Year award. And fucking
Neri, did you rewatch Deep Impact getting ready for this episode?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody, because when I got on the family share to watch Demon Knight, I was like, somebody's been getting ready, and they watched Deep Impact.
That's why I'm telling you, because it's fresh in my mind. Fucking Toby Ziegler, they get to the bunker and they're like, hey, I'm gonna go back for her, and he's like, okay, cool, here's a watch so you can trade.
Plus, it didn't have an
like
Aerosmith song.
My child, please, like.
I was really.
He's like, all right, but we can still go in, right?
Depressing as fuck.
Yeah,
and super depressing. There was no ray of light in that fucking. There was no ray of hope. Nothing. It was like, hey, we're gonna send up a team of astronauts. Where are we in the movie? Oh, 17 minutes in. Yeah, we failed. Mission failed. How much longer do we have? 2.5 hours left. Fucking buckle up.
Oh wait,
fuckers.
that guy has a baby that he's never seen before. We're gonna make him blind by the sun, so he doesn't get to see the baby, and it can't talk to the baby because the baby can't talk.
Listen,
Right.
I haven't seen these movies in a long time, Deep Impact or Armageddon, but I remember liking Deep Impact.
No, your story checks out, Dave.
Now that you're saying this,
fuck out. I mean, out of those two movies,
I literally was texting Neri watching this. I'm like, this movie's so fucking depressing. Like, I'm miserable.
Hold your fucking horses, Sister Act 2.
Yeah, but I admit I'm wrong. I acknowledge. I was like, no, I was wrong. I was kid eyes. I was watching with kid eyes, and then
I'm saying right now that I haven't seen this movie in years, and that my assessment of the movie could be wrong. Whereas it took you to rewatch the movie, before you admitted it.
But I never said that Sister Act 2 was better than Sister Act 1. I never said that crazy shit.
I never said that. Can we roll tape? Can we roll tape here?
Yeah, I said that it didn't deserve the 17% that it got. That it's a better
isolate
movie.
it.
Listen,
isolate that.
I'm very sorry, Dave, because I didn't mean to jump on you, but I got so mad watching that movie that I was like, if somebody says Deep Impact, I'm just letting loose.
And I told him,
there was no way.
Jeff, what did I say? I said Dave is gonna fucking have it. I said these honorable mentions are on his list. Dave is gonna. I fucking knew. And here's the thing. I was defending Deep Impact. I'm like, no, I like both. That's I don't have to. It's not a Biggie and Tupac thing. I could like both. I'm fine. I'm okay with it. And then I rewatched Deep Impact, and I was like, oh, I can stay corrected again.
Maybe I need to.
I want you to watch it, Dave, and message me and see if you, because now I notice these things. When it came out, it was 1998. Like we were like 17, I think, 16. And I was and so I think I watched it. It was a different, it was just a different. Now I'm watching it as an adult, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck is that? Hold on,
I even made a joke because he watched it before. Jeff watched it before I did. He's like, Elijah's parents just fucking let him go. Like, oh, I want to go with this chick, and I made a joke. I was like, yeah, bro, they've had sex. He hasn't had sex. Go get your pussy, bro. Go get it. The world's gonna end. You need to get laid, brother. We've been late. You need to get yours. That was like a joke. And then I saw the movie. I was like, oh no, for real, they don't give a fuck.
Yo, that's what they did though.
The only part that made me laugh is like when they give the baby sister to the girl on the dirt bike, and Elijah Wood almost eats it on the dirt bike. And I'm like, you're gonna kill the baby in front of the parents by eating it on the dirt bike.
Oh, spectacular.
Anyway, and Gravity.
Gravity's great.
Yeah.
Gravity's fantastic. I didn't find that as a disaster movie only because I found that as a
I thought about
movie.
it as a survival film from a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Not that the two can't be both things.
Yeah,
Movies
yeah.
both things.
There's definitely some crossover there. I think how I can't think of anything fucking else that could possibly go wrong for her. So I mean, if that's not disastrous,
if she was trying to get back to an Earth that's being ravaged by asteroids, that would be a disaster movie. It's like, I need to get back to Earth, and then she gets to Earth, and she's
it's just Elijah Wood.
It's just Elijah Wood on a dirt bike.
Elijah Wood's there, baby. Like, hey, are you here? You're with me now.
Elijah Wood and his child bride are like, hey,
So now we can make a couple different ones, and it won't all be whatever.
Yeah, it won't be Please rewatch Deep Impact with the things I've said, and you'll see it.
It'll happen.
Jeff, hit me, bro. What do you got for y'all?
All right, I have Sharknado 2, the second one.
There it is.
Sharknado 3. Oh hell no, I'm just kidding. I only actually put Sharknado 2, the second one, because they finally realized we're ridiculous, but we're gonna be even more ridiculous.
Bro, is the second one the one where Tara Reid signs the user manual for the Samsung tablet?
Yeah.
And she signs her name in all block letters like a kindergarten.
She signs it for Kelly Osbourne. I also had Andrew, great pick with The Impossible. That's about the 2004 tsunami in Thailand with young Tom Holland and Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor. It's a really cool movie.
You are aware Tom Holland today is still young Tom Holland.
Well, super young Tom Holland.
I
know.
Yeah. I'll just make it obvious.
Oh, yeah. Then I had Dante's Peak, and then I had The Birds.
The Birds is a good one. Yeah.
The Birds is a fun one.
I Crawl, but the bonus I Crawl.
The Birds.
I had Independence Day, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I didn't know if that was technically a disaster film.
I thought about putting Godzilla versus Kong because they wreck a whole ass city, but I took out monster movies.
But you wanted to put good movies. Godzilla, King of the Monsters to me is legit fucking awesome.
Oh yeah,
that movie.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
So Independence Day, Godzilla, King of Monsters, and Jurassic Park. I also had Unstoppable, but Andrew already talked about it.
Jurassic Park, I didn't even think about that one, but I mean that makes sense. That's good.
Movie.
Yeah.
So Jurassic, I asked Jeff, I'm like, just Jurassic Park count, and I love Jeff's answer. He goes, yeah, there's a hurricane. I'm like, oh, oh, okay, so that's all right. There's also fucking, dinosaurs eating people, but yeah, I guess if you want to count the hurricane as the reason why but there's a legitimate argument to that, so that's why I left it at honorable mentions. Because let's be real, Jurassic Park is fucking better than Noah.
Yeah.
But I was like, but there's room for questioning whether or not Jurassic Park is a disaster.
I'd say The Lost World is probably more a disaster than the first one, and maybe Jurassic World more than
Jurassic World is not. I just don't like that movie at all. I can't get the fucking.
I like it.
Movie.
Yeah. It's not the best, but.
Yeah,
it's no Jurassic Park 3.
I could not I've never watched Jurassic Park 3.
Good, you're fine.
You're good.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not that terrible. No,
I didn't finish Jurassic Park 2. I actually read the book for Jurassic Park 2. Did not finish the movie Jurassic Park 2. Didn't watch Part 3. Jurassic World. I don't. He lost me with the fucking whole raptor thing. With that whole fucking. I'm a fucking raptor. I was like, I'm fuck out of here with this shit. And then the Jurassic World 2 was just hot.
Oh, that was awful. That was
awful. Andrew with the zinger.
It's no Sister Act 2. Andrew puts. I don't know which one you're talking about that, but I think all of those movies that I just mentioned are all Sister Act 2
adjacent.
Yeah, they're all that just I don't. Again, I haven't seen Jurassic Park 3. That's the only one I can't really speak to, but they're all Sister Act 2.
William H. Macy and Taya Leone.
None of them are good. All right, so let's go to our number ones.
Round 1. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
Do it. Do it. Come on. Come on.
All right. DeBono, hit me, man. What's your number one?
My number one is Twister.
All
Twister is a movie that it stuck with me because everything about Twister felt so realistic. Going back and watching it now, yeah, there's some sillier parts. But when Twister came out, and I didn't really know anything about tornadoes, not growing up somewhere. I didn't grow up in Alabama. I grew up in Virginia. So before I moved to Alabama, and I wasn't that familiar with Twister or with tornadoes, Twister all felt very, very real. And it's yes, we got cows. You are absolutely right, Missy. I think it's the same cow, actually.
You know that was a zebra from Jumanji that they used the CGI for. I'm not even kidding. The base CGI for it was one of the zebras from Jumanji.
Fantastic. This movie, it was a good blend of action and then, like the little drama of them, being divorced and he went and signed the papers and stuff like that. But when the tornadoes came, that was so genuinely terrifying, and everything that happened was so realistic and felt so real and so possible. And like when you go back and you watch Twister, that moment when she suggests, well, what's an F5? And like they all just get quiet.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, that would be like the finger of God. And it's just like, it's so mind blowing to them.
I was so young when the movie came out that when he said the finger of God, I was like, it's like God finger blasting you. Like, that's all it's all about, the God finger blast.
And so the reason, and this is the reason this one made it to number one is highly personal. Living in Tuscaloosa, I have now lived somewhere where I have seen the destruction that an EF5 tornado causes. In 2011, an EF5 ransacked Tuscaloosa. I mean, it left a path of destruction that you could see from satellites. And so now Twister is so unbelievably personal to me because I know people who lost their homes and lost their businesses and lost everything to a tornado. And even after living through that, I'm amazingly fortunate. Like, I lived close enough to where this tornado ran through that art supplies from the Hobby Lobby it destroyed landed in my yard, but I walked away unscathed. And so now I can still go back and watch. I go back and watch Twister now, and it's even more terrifying now because I've bared witness to what a tornado can actually do, and this movie does a great job of capturing the way that people feel about them. And you meet storm chasers and stuff like that when you live in Tornado Alley like I do, and you meet these people that are so hardcore about it. And this movie really does portray them remarkably accurately. And so it's a movie that I think still holds up to this day. And it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's terrifying when it's supposed to be terrifying.
This is the other movie that my dad and I. This is probably like one of my dad's top 3 movies of all time. Like, he can quote you this movie. Like, he adores this film. With me, it was my number 2. I just rewatched it actually during dinner again for another time, and it has this the realism to it, to the point that the storm chasers, the actual storm chasers, when Bill Paxton died, they did this tribute to him where they all got coordinates, and on the radar it spelled out his initials. PD,
yes,
which they've only done it for like 4 other people in the past, and he was like the first one that was not a storm chaser in real life that they did it for. But like, talk about impactful to the point that every year they still do a festival about the movie in Kansas. On TikTok, 2 of the actors that are in it, the girl that has the glasses and the bucket hat, and then the crazy looking skinny guy, they posted that they were flying out there it was like a couple months ago. So it still has a lasting impact today, where they're doing conventions just about this movie. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, his character is one of my favorite characters in that movie. Him messing
so
with Bill Paxton's wife, it's got those great lines like Missy put the "we got cows." That scene in the drive-in is, when you see that opening shot of the Shining coming down, call back to Shiver last week. You see the Shining coming into screen, that shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
And I I don't get tired of watching this movie. But yeah, Dave, I know you had it too, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not gonna retread the same waters that you guys just did. You both said it perfectly. It terrified me as a kid. I used to vacation every summer with my parents in their RV, and we'd pack up and drive throughout the whole country. And we happened to be in Kansas one summer when it was not an F5, but it was like an F1 or an F2 that hit, and we were in an RV, and we had to end up kind of parking it parallel to a like a concrete building. It was a restroom, really, is what it was, in a rest area, and rain was like coming in like sideways through the windows, and it was absolutely terrifying. And that was an F1, So it gave me new I guess respect for nature. And the next time that I saw the movie, which was often because it's one of my mom's favorite movies, I was like, oh man, you know what? This is really scary. That's that scene where Paxton and Hunt tie themselves to that pipe in the barn is just so scary. I love this movie.
There we go. Twister, man.
That's the scene that lost the movie for me. They tied themselves to a fucking pipe on an F5. I'm like, the finger of God? Really? You're going to tie yourself to with a leather belt? All right, well, heads up to that fucking leather.
Maybe it was braided.
Yeah, I was like, in my mind, I remember I was, this came out what year?
96.
So yeah, I was like 15. And I remember thinking to myself, man, shout out to that fucking leather maker, that belt maker. Holy fuck, that guy's incredible. I don't know, I just got that's the one I just lost that movie. And then what happened? I went to Universal enough times that the ride sucked, and I was like, this shit sucks.
I loved it.
I mean, it's better than that opening sequence of the ride was better than the ride itself. The ride was fun, but that opening where you're inside that building that's like all looks like and then the storm actually comes and you hear the siren and they like evacuate you, and you got Paxton and Helen Hunt telling you the thing.
Helen Hunt's fantastic. I love her.
Oh,
I just I found the movie to be okay. It's weird. Like I find that's a movie that could have been a cult in the cult classics movie.
Yeah.
That movie has such a cult following, and I couldn't understand it as a kid. I was like, it was fine. It was like I never disliked the movie, but I'm like, it was fine. It's fine. It's fine.
We're going in.
Yeah. But
plus Carrie Elwes. Yeah.
Carrie Elwes is the bad.
Yeah. I'll take it.
All right. Dave, what do you got?
My number one is the first one that came to mind. It is the disaster movie that I watch the absolute most. I watch this multiple times a year. It is Airplane.
Oh.
I normally don't go with the like comedic subgenre for my number ones.
My honest to God was like, does he mean airport or does he actually mean airplane?
No. I almost never go with the comedic one for a number one. I'll usually reserve that for a number 3 or 4. But there is no way that Airplane was not going to be my number one. It is not just a really great comedy, but it is a really good disaster movie.
Demona.
It's not that I can't take the pick seriously. It's just this movie is just this, like I used to have a friend that, like, I swear to you, like, you could not hang out with us for more than an hour where Airplane didn't get quoted like at least once.
Yeah.
And it was something that just went over the heads of like everybody we hung out with. So to hear it make I'm so happy that I can't stop laughing. This is spectacular.
My absolute favorite part of Airplane. I mean, what hasn't been said about Airplane at this point? I mean, the movie came out in 1980, but what I will say about Airplane is there's one scene that I didn't know this until a very similar friend of mine, Daniel, who we can't hang out together without Airplane coming up at least once, or any of the Abrams Zucker movies. And there's a scene at the very end of the movie when the plane comes crashing into the airport. Everyone starts running, right? And there's this one woman who was holding a baby, and she throws the fucking baby in the air as she runs away from this airplane. It is just amazing. It is amazing.
Let's see your dad drag Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes.
That's such a good scene.
My favorite line. My favorite.
You got the wrong guys, not me.
My favorite line's like, what do you make of this? I can make a little hat. I can
Excuse me, stewardess. I speak jive.
That's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Does anybody speak jive? I speak a little jive. Hey, jive, take a second. Like, it was so.
What show? She was from. Was it the Waltons or something that she was from? I'm trying to remember what she was from. One of those old sitcoms. From like the
I don't
60s
even.
to 70s.
I don't even know. But God, that movie, I love it so much. I did not even consider it, and the fact that it is number one on your mountain.
When you Google disaster movies, it came up, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh, all right. But there's that scene where she's having a conversation with the old lady, and then she's telling the old lady her life story, and the lady just keeps on talking and says some of the dirtiest sexual shit you've ever fucking heard. And the fact that it's coming from an old lady just makes it that much funnier. But
I'm looking for some light reading. We've got this pamphlet of famous Jewish athletes. That movie is so untouchably funny.
I've got a drinking problem. Anytime he starts going into his life,
I picked a terrible day to stop sniffing glue.
I think that there hasn't been a person that has been in a delivery room that I haven't sent them to Leslie Nielsen. We're all counting on you. Like gift, like it's.
Oh my God, I'm in tears just thinking about the movie Airplane and the fact that it made your mountain for this. This is so great.
And don't call me Shirley.
Yeah.
Oh, spectacular. Did not consider it a disaster film. Kind of wish I had.
I didn't. The only reason I didn't pick it is because I see that movie far more as everything else but a disaster movie. I'm not saying it's not a disaster movie. I'm just saying that that's the last thing I think of it is a disaster movie. It was kind of like same thing with Jurassic Park, where I go, I don't really consider that a disaster movie, but I guess it is if you think about it. Like that's why I didn't make my.
It's definitely a comedy, but I mean, it is a satire of
all the disaster movies in the 70s,
of disaster movies. So like to me, it was a no-brainer in the same way where like I didn't really need to convince myself of Mars Attacks. I didn't need to convince myself of this either, you know. And you still have, you know, that a lot of the same tropes that we discussed for disaster movies. You do have likable characters.
Yeah.
You know, he's got to overcome his trauma, you know, and by the end of the movie, he's a hero, I guess.
Oh my God, I gotta go watch.
You know, there's so much about this movie that, you know, still follows those disaster movie tropes, all while being like laugh out loud funny. And I know that that's a term that gets thrown around a lot with movies, but it really is that funny.
Oh, yes, it is. If you are listening to this and you've never seen Airplane and nothing we've said makes any sense, you've got to watch Airplane.
How the fuck are you listening to this podcast if you've never
True
seen
enough. I agree, but there's got to be somebody out there.
Diagram is such a small sliver of people who listen to this podcast and have never watched
the circles just barely touch.
It's like like there's that one because you have to have one for like maybe out there. You know what? Missy, maybe. I think Missy might.
She's seen it. She's seen it.
Yeah. And I don't think that anybody in the world would listen to this podcast without seeing Airplane. Airplane's fantastic. It's one of my favorite movies. The gratuitous titty scene is
it's so amazing.
And so to me, it and before anybody gets upset about the PC of it all, like the fact that they're making fun of the gratuitous nudity for no reason in these disaster movies, where they literally have the frame and the titties come. Like the lady, you don't even see her face. She gets into the center of the shot. She gets to the center of the shot and then looks directly into the camera, but you can't see her head, shakes her titties, and then moves along. There's no reason for that. And it's literally just them mocking the disaster movies.
And it's as everyone is like forming a line to slap sense it to someone. It's
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so good.
All
right.
Spectacular.
Jeff, you want to tell them our number one?
Oh, it's yours too? I got the intro. I can intro it.
Go ahead.
There's been a lot of talk about drillers, and there's been a lot of talk about likable characters, and there's been a lot of talk about there's not really nudity, but there's partial nudity in this movie. My number one, and I'm Neri's number one,
it's gonna be
is Armageddon.
Of course.
Of course.
I can never get tired of this movie. It's got the perfect amount, more so than Deep Impact, of happiness and sadness. Because if you don't cry at the end at Bruce Willis, saying the at the TV screen where they had basic cable and they lost the signal, like I don't know who you are as a person. But like even watching it again,
know who you are.
Yeah, I don't want to know who you are. But like the thing is that this movie gave you it had the humor. It was over the top Michael Bay, but it had a black guy with a dog at the beginning. It had Eddie Griffin riding a bicycle with a dog, which in Deep Imp in The Day After Tomorrow was the other one, that it was another guy, that the black guy was with the dog with them inside when they were burning the books in the library. So that's where I was saying that joke about that. But Armageddon, you've got all these different characters that are so likable in the short amount of time that you get to know them. And they don't really need to introduce everybody and spend time introducing them. Just from like random dialogue, they're like, oh, so that's what this person kind of is. That's what this person kind of. That opening scene with Bruce Willis and Affleck was fucking brilliant. And then seeing the development of love and respect from two people, going through this tough time and not giving up on those people when shit's not going well in training and everything like that. The whole asteroid thing, they at least completed their mission, unlike Deep Impact. I just love the over the topness. The fact that this movie is used by NASA to this day to train managers at NASA. Their goal is they have to watch the movie and point out all the errors and all the wrong things that the people working in the NASA thing have done.
You're saying when we try to save someone's life, we shouldn't rip their air hose out? All right. Let me just
jot that down.
Jot that down there.
Put it right underneath. Ships are not supposed to be upside down. Put that right underneath that.
Yeah.
If you're an architect, you know this thing.
And I told Neri that I called bullshit. Again, watching these movies now, like I catch these things I never caught before. That when they're having to draw straws and the captain's like, well, it takes two of us to fly the ship, so it's got to be you guys. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You have a cosmonaut. He's an astronaut too, motherfucker. He can fly it. You are just trying to be slick with the drillers. And so you and this girl can survive, you motherfucker. I see through your games. I see what you did. But the scenes were just so epic, and like there's talk about quotable. Like there's so many random scenes. Like how many times this week, Neri, did I tell you what the hell are we fighting for?
Yeah.
If nobody else is doing this, what the hell are we fighting for?
So good. I say that all the time. I love this movie. Unapologetically, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the low Rotten Tomato scores. Again, not that I wipe my ass with those things, but I didn't know about the low Rotten Tomato score until you, Jeff, pointed it out to me a couple of days ago. I had no idea. I was like, I didn't know. And then he was like, and then I told him, I go, a lot of people hated this movie because they liked Deep Impact, and usually it was a very clear cut line of age. It's like if you were like 40 and above when this movie came out, like you loved Deep Impact. And if you were younger than that, you liked Armageddon better. And it was like usually that kind of scenario. Everybody that I've met, my friend Paul Castronovo, like we have this argument all the time. He's always like, Deep Impact is better. Like he has that shit on his radio show often, that argument. He's put that poll up on Twitter multiple times. Like he has a deep hatred for Armageddon only because his love for Deep Impact. And I'm like, you're fucking wrong. Like it doesn't matter how you slice it. I watch this movie often. The most recent time I watched it was probably like right before the quarantine. I was on a plane and I saw it on a plane and I fucking cried on a plane. Like I was like, like it was so fucking, That scene gets you, man. Missy says that she doesn't even like her dad, and that Bruce Willis and Liv Tyler scene still kills her every time. She says the movie's so epic, it has everything: action, despair, love story, redemption, blue collar heroes. It has everything.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Steve Buscemi as Rockhound.
Steve Buscemi.
Which funny thing with him, he signed on because they said that he was going to be like this heroic character and everything like that because he was tired of being the crazy person.
Yeah.
And then they changed the script after he signed on for the movie and made Rockhound go nuts, space
Plus,
crazy.
it's the only movie on anybody's list that had a #1 song on TRL. So
a lot of, it's funny that you say that because the
whole soundtrack was really good.
It's funny. A lot of people that I've talked to, again, my friend Paul Casanova, Dave Lamont, all these guys hate Armageddon because of that song, because they think that that's Aerosmith's weakest song, and they hate. And I'm like, really?
They're not wrong.
Song, maybe their weakest song, but it's rad. I mean,
but it's funny because I was like, that's the reason I started listening to Aerosmith. That song. I love that song. So I think it's funny how a lot of people are like, I don't like this about something, so I have to hate it because I like Deep Impact. I have to hate Armageddon. That type of logic, that Tupac and Biggie logic is what I call it. But I legitimately love Armageddon. I've seen that movie multiple times throughout the years. It's still fucking great. I love that movie.
It's funny to me that and Deep Impact came out 2 months apart.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, that movie. I mean, I rewatched it, and I'll watch it again. Maybe tonight, I might watch it
tomorrow.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I thoroughly enjoy that movie. I don't get tired. I mean, and I know it's not an Oscar-winning film, but sometimes you just need those ridiculous, cheesy movies.
I've got nothing against Armageddon, man.
I don't think that movie's cheesy. Whether or not it's Oscar worthy or whatever the fuck, that's besides the point. I don't think that movie's cheesy at all. I think the movie's fun.
I mean, Amniri, they did fly on a rover and do barrel rolls in the
that sounds like fun.
The Russian cosmonaut guy is the freaking one of the best parts of the movie.
Dog.
I show you how we fix things on Soviet space station.
The critics did prefer Deep Impact to Armageddon, not by much. I mean, Armageddon was 38%, and Deep Impact is 45%.
Yeah, and then the audience score tells you everything. The audience score on both those films tells you that
it was like in the 70s, I think, or something.
Yeah, and it was in the 70s.
Deep Impact made $349.5 million. Armageddon made $553.7 million.
You can thank Steven Tyler and Joe Perry for that.
Yeah.
Also Ben Affleck,
but it also had a considerably larger budget, almost by double. Deep Impact had a budget of 80, and Armageddon had a budget of 140.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, I can't fault it. Like I said, the only reason it made it down to honorable mentions for me is because it had just been a while since I've seen it, and I kind of remembered it being kind of cheesy. It's one I need to go back and watch, honestly, because it's just been a while. I just remembered it being cheesy.
About that movie at all, I don't see any cheese. I see fun. If you want to talk about fun, or I don't. And again, those two things are not mutually exclusive. It could be cheesy and fun. I get it. I'm not. I think The Rocketeer is a prime example of that. A movie that I've spoken ill about in the past. Last time I saw it was like 2 years ago, and I was like, no, I was wrong. It was fun. I enjoyed the movie. It was still cheesy, but I did enjoy it, and I did go back on my previous.
I didn't hear that.
Well, you did actually, but your memory has failed you yet again.
That makes sense.
We talk about that often. You're like, oh, I'm glad you like it now. I'm glad you changed your mind. And I told you about it, that there's so some cheesiness to it. How the coincidences of him just seeing him at the whatever the fuck. I'm not gonna go into a Rocketeer spiel now. But the point is, the movie's still cheesy, but I have acknwledged that cheesy can be fun. It doesn't.
There we go. I'll commit
100%.
to going back and watching it again.
It's good. Let me see here. Let me see. What does she say? Missy says Armageddon has a way better cast. If Ben Affleck saved the day with a dirt bike, I'd believe it. Not you, Elijah. But here's the thing, Missy. Elijah didn't save the day either.
No, he just rode his ass away.
He took his child bride and her sister, baby sister, and went up to the mountain.
Yeah, Misty says that critics. She points out that critics are paid to have an opinion, so there's no value to me. I agree. I mean, it's something that I take with a grain of salt. I go, oh, that movie, whatever, you know.
I mean, the Google user reviews. I don't know what you were thinking of as audience. It's almost identical. Also, one was 82, one was
No, I was
80.
thinking about Rotten Tomato has a critic review, has a critic
Oh,
review, has an
okay,
audience
got you,
score.
got you.
But those I know that the movie, the audience scores for Armageddon are higher than the audience score for
Deep Impact.
For Deep Impact. But again, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't make a difference. Like I've never seen a review and gone, you know what? I'm gonna fucking stick to that. Like I just watched the movie.
The audience score for Armageddon was 73%. Deep Impact was 43%.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah. I think the audience score was lower than
people have spoken,
right?
Yeah.
The audience score for Deep Impact is lower than the critic score, which is weird. That's typically not the case. Typically, critics are harsher than the audience, and the audience is like, no, you guys, somebody paid you.
I will get to that depth. I will give you 800 feet.
Christ. AJ, there's not a job on this planet I would like you for. All right, so Twister's definitely going to be on there. Armageddon's they're going to be on there. Those are I think the two.
Poseidon Adventure.
Poseidon Adventure, right? Armageddon, Twister, and Poseidon Adventure, and then we have room for one more.
I want to throw Airplane up there as a contender.
Rounding out Mountain Wise, it is Disaster, and it's a comedy. It adds something else to the film. I have zero negative things to say about Airplane. I could not argue that one.
I don't see it as a disaster movie. I'm not saying it's not a disaster movie. I'm saying when I think of that movie, I don't think disaster movies. If I saw that on a mountain, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's disaster movies.
Yeah, no, true enough. That is the thing, right? Like, as much as I love Airplane, I never even considered it as a disaster film, whereas some other things that have gotten mentioned I absolutely do. I think Contagion, honestly,
I think is a fantastic pick.
I think Contagion would be a really good pick because, again, that's something that we've all, like I said, it cuts so close to the knuckles. Like, that's just something that we've all seen play out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we've seen War of the Worlds play out, but it's more with political parties than anything else. No, I agree. Contagion, I think, is a fantastic War of the Worlds, but again, and then I never saw Crawl, but the trailer sold me for fucking Crawl.
I'm saying you got to watch Crawl.
Crawl's great.
And nobody's seen Deepwater Horizon except me. So
right, yeah.
I know.
No. I only have room in my life for one set of oil diggers.
So yeah, no, I think Contagion is the best pick here. I think it rounds things out nicely. It being a virus pick, it being so realistic. I think it's something that everybody can relate to and be terrified of. I think Contagion is the pick here.
I agree. I second that. Anybody else?
Sure. I mean, it's my pick, so I'm going to say yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so the final mountain is Armageddon, Twister, Poseidon Adventure, and Contagion. All right, that's our disaster films. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you check us out. Go to like us on all our social medias, including Facebook page, our YouTube page, our Twitch, Instagram. Everything is at MtGeekmore. You could also find us at geekbro.net along with the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network that include, but are not limited to, the What's Up Bro podcast, the Shiver, the Better Let Me Tell You, Chow Like a Best with Mike Valdez, A Dos of Eli, and we have a brand new one coming out. We're going to be doing the first episode of Kick Flicks on Thursday, where Jeff, Missy, Mike Mercadal, and myself are going to be watching and reviewing martial arts films. And they're gonna run the spectrum of martial arts films. So whatever you think a martial art film is, just know that there's a wide spectrum. Our very first movie that we'll be reviewing, as you can tell by our Instagram, by the video on our Instagram post, which is Kick Flicks with an X, Kick Flicks Pod, is gonna be 1992's classic Sidekicks.
Yes.
So it was what was that? What was the villain's name?
Joe Piscopo.
Yeah, it was Joe Piscopo.
The Joe Piscopo film. Oh yeah, Chuck Norris is also in there.
Table. I saw this. I watched it 2 days ago already.
Make sure you check us out. Go look us up. If you're listening to the audio version, it's already up. If you're watching this live or you're watching the video version of this week of the 16th of August, just know that the Facebook page is going to be put up in a couple of days. We're waiting for the finishing touches on the logo, and it's going to be Kick Flicks with an X. It's like Netflix but with kicking. Kick Flicks Pod is going to be everything. All the channels all the way around. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you check out the other podcast, like I said. And that's my comedy is at narysigns.com. Shout out to anybody who came out to the Miami Improv this past weekend. It was I'm not exaggerating when I say this. This is not just lip service. It was one of the most fun fucking weekends I've ever had on stage. It was bonkers crazy. I'm very happy with I have a whole new set of jokes, bits that I'm working on that are very personal to me, and they seem to be working. And for a comedian, if you're not a comedian, the only way I can explain the happiness that a new joke brings to a comedian is give a 2-year-old a balloon and see what happens with that balloon. That's oh my God, I got a balloon. Like, that's our fucking happiness, is when we have a new joke that's working. That's it. So I'm happy. So thank you guys for checking us out. That's how lists are made.